Atletico Madrid winning with what seemed from pretty early in that final, Graham, with crushing inevitability.
Well, you know, you watch the first 15 minutes, Marseille on the front foot, bossing the game without creating any chances other than the one in the first minute, a couple of minutes. We said before the game, this is a Madrid team that doesn't get you on the edge of your seat. Don't play exciting, free-flowing, passing football, but they get the job done. You know, they conceded the fewest goals in their league this year. They nick games. They don't dominate the ball. You know, they can play without, they can be successful without having the majority of the ball, like we saw against Arsenal in 2 games. We saw again tonight, especially in the first half. The manager deserves all the credit, because this is, with utmost respect, other than the 2 strikers, they're, I wouldn't say journeymen, but there's no stars in their team beyond Griezmann and Costa.
He was a star tonight, wasn't
he? He's off, isn't he? This will be his last game. He's destined for a bigger club than Atletico, but they get the job done. They've got a know-how that few possess, and they all work their socks off. And as I said, they've got a really good goalkeeper, strong back four, a workaholic midfield, and 2 stars up front.
It's quite a unit, isn't it? Graham said before the game, Neil, that he expected Atletico to do a number on Marseille. They certainly did tonight.
Yeah, it was absolutely brilliant. The way they do it, you know, it's not everyone's cup of tea. It's not maybe the Guardiola way or the Real Madrid way. It's the Simeone way. They are a fantastic unit, and they're totally outclassed, outthought, outworked, outscored, outplayed Marseille. From the beginning of the second half, they smelt the blood. Once they got the first goal, they're in control. They come out second half and totally control the game. All right, Marseille hit the post with a header.
Yeah.
They had a few bits and pieces, but it was total dominance with and without the ball.
Brian, you saw Diego Simeone consoling a very rueful-looking Rudy Garcia there just a few moments ago. For Marseille, everything that could go wrong did go wrong for them tonight.
Yeah, well, they missed that chance early on. They started the game very well, and I guess in the middle of the pitch, I was actually taking a few notes of how well he was doing until he made that disastrous error on the goal. But Mandanda, I did say before the match, I thought there might be mistakes at the back. I didn't think the 2 centre-halves were very good, in contrast to Atletico Madrid, who are so efficient defensively and so ruthless in attack. And when Germain missed that big chance, you felt they might not get too many more. You don't get many you get against this team.
You were right, and you were all right with your pre-match predictions. Atletico Madrid win the Europa League trophy for the 3rd time. So it's Atletico's night in Lyon, 3-0 winners over Marseille. A final being played on home soil, no good to the French side. And France's woes in European competition continue. That's 3 finals in a row that Marseille have lost in this competition, but only twice in the past have French sides won a European trophy. PSG in the old Cup Winners' Cup back in the 90s, and Marseille as well, when you look at the domination of Spanish sides.
Well, it's an indication of the standard of the clubs, really. You can't say France haven't produced great football players, because lots of other countries have been quite happy to take their players. The best Arsenal teams were backboned by the brilliant players, the likes of Pires and Vieira and Henry and so on. But lots of countries, that's their first choice of player selection, isn't it? That they go to French League, they can get the players relatively cheaply. And there's plenty of them. They're not always top parties, not always able to survive in the better leagues. But the clubs suffer then. The clubs are development clubs in many ways. PSG have tried to do it with a different model, trying to buy outside players that are good enough to get them Champions League. They haven't been able to do it so far, and I think Brian would make the point that...
Well, that man's a great case in point. Abidal, who was obviously a great player for Lyon, but went on to do really great things with Barcelona.
Yeah, the problem is that I think the French are not that mad for football. You know, ultimately that's what it comes down to, because the league isn't the strongest. The best players leave. When you go back to sort of Thierry Henry and Zinedine Zidane era, the one you're talking about, they won a Euros and a World Cup, the national team, but didn't have any teams that could win either this competition or the one with big ears. And you know, I think that's because they want to leave. They end up in Italy. They used to end up in Italy, all the best players, and now it's England and Spain. And I think that tells you the story about how the French see football, that the best players can't stay in their country and help their own clubs win trophies.
Even the man of the match tonight was French, but he was on the other team.
Yeah. Spanish teams have won 8 out of the last nine major European trophies. Wonder when they make it 9 out of 10 next week.
Don't shush. Don't say
one of the talking points before the game was whether Simeone's absence from the sideline would affect Atletico at all. It didn't in the slightest. The game plan is just absolutely solid, isn't it?
Drilled in. I mean, again, in the Arsenal match, he was suspended for the second leg. It didn't make a heap of difference. Bogus on the line. He's a lively character too. But the game is played. That fella there, Godin, he's the one who sets the tone. I think he's the one that bosses the others into the style of play. And he gives the example when he has to do his own job. He's ruthless, he kicks it away, boots into touch, heads it, tackles. And he just makes the rest of them do their job that are in front of them, I think.
Nice touch from the Atletico players, though, by the way. And, you know, the phrase men against boys is one that you guys in the studio used a lot. You can see how badly Marseille are affected by that defeat.
Yeah, well, it's like a home game for them. It's up the motorway from Marseille. Going back to, was the manager mistake because he wasn't on the touchline? No. This is a team that they play like this every week. You know, they don't do anything different when you see them play the lesser teams to the better teams. They're quite happy to play without the ball. They play, you know, they're a well-drilled outfit. Everyone knows what their jobs, what they have to do. They do the basics really, really well, and we'll highlight that later.
In terms of leadership, and Brian's just touched on Godin there, Neil, Dimitri Payet had the captain's armband tonight. Was there a sense with Marseille that the heads just went down when he went off, and the other players thought, that's it, we're done here?
You need your talisman, leader. They were a goal down anyway, and they weren't looking like getting their way back into the game. One man who could provide that impetus maybe, or a bit of creativity, and they need that against a team as good as Atletico, would have been Payet. You know, the young player who came on didn't come anywhere near the levels that Payet had, and it weakened them. There's no question of that. So there's a lot of tears, a lot of regrets. But at the end of the day, they were totally outclassed.
Don't want to bring up too many bad memories, Neil, but you obviously had that walk to make in 2003. It must be a really tough one.
It is, yeah, but I wouldn't have a guard of honour for the winners, or I wouldn't have the winners giving us a guard of honour going up to pick our medals, you know, stuff like that. I mean, it's all good sporting integrity and all that, but you're there to win. You want to get your medal, get off the pitch. But we certainly put up a better fight than Marseille did tonight, that's for sure. But it's a horrible feeling. But they were beaten by a far superior team tonight.
No complaints.
So you're playing against, when you play against Madrid, this Madrid, you must feel you're well in the game because you've got most of the ball, you're making passes in and around them. And this is where you have to give all of the Madrid players and their coaching staff great credit, because if you're Madrid and you're playing that way, where you're not on the ball all the time, you're not dominating play, you're not having chances at goal, you appear not to be in the game, but you stick to what you're being coached, and that's credit to the staff, to getting that message across to the players that listen, we're good like this, we're okay, like, keep believing me, we will win games with those two front players we've got, as long as the rest of us are doing our job properly.
After time, don't they? That incredible consistency which Conor touched on there, 3 Europa Leagues in 9 years, 2 Champions League finals, 4 third-place La Ligas, a La Liga title, 2nd this season so far with 1 game to go. Is that the ceiling for Diego Simeone's Atletico? Is he constantly pushing them to the absolute limits of what he could possibly achieve with them?
I think he could win the Champions League with a couple of additions. I think they've come close. They were a minute away in Lisbon in 2014. You know, they took it to penalties 2 years later. So this, again, is another feather in his cap. I love the way they play. You know, it's not easy being that good defensively. And they make it look an art. You know, in this modern game where everyone's on about, you know, attacking football.
They're throwback, aren't they?
Yeah, we were talking, myself and Graham off air. They remind me of Nottingham Forest back in the late 70s under Clough. Really good spine, hard to beat, good on the counter-attack, good goalkeeper, good centre-halves, sprinkled with a bit of stardust up front. Real good template.
And they've given a club legend there, Fernando Torres, a signing-off trophy. He's expected to leave the club in the summer, and what a way to leave with a major European trophy for Atletico Madrid. That's not fair. It's more like it. Papi, delighted. Juan Fran and the family. Juan Fran, of course, who missed the penalty back in 2016 in the shootout against Real Madrid. All these little moments to savour, isn't it?
Yeah, well, they came on the second half, which we spoke about as a good decision by the coach, because the
Versalco
had been booked in the first half. Yeah, I mean, these moments when you've won a trophy and you're on the pitch are so special. You know, you unfortunately just go too quickly, and you don't remember too much about them. And if you're fortunate to have your family on there as well, it's even more
Did
special.
you get to celebrate any big wins with your children or when you were playing?
Latterly, yeah, as a manager, but as a player, no, because they weren't. You know, these European games I played in were all out. Well, one was in London, but at that time the families weren't allowed onto the pitch. But you can only imagine how special that is for these boys right now.
And I wonder, does it play into Simeone's attachment to the club, and people wonder why he stayed there so long, that they fight for each other, they have a real togetherness about them, and you can see with scenes like that, obviously they're going to celebrate a win, but it seems to infect the way they play as well.
Well, I think he's earned himself the power. He's everything in the club. I'm sure he has people walking around him in scouting roles, but he decides on the policy, the type of player they sign, and I'd say he has a bit of influence on the re-signing of players, of the wages that they pay, and his own passion for the club seems to pull players back to the club. I mean, Torres went away and came back. Felipe Luis went away and came back. Costa went away and came back. And it's what I also admire about him is the way the team evolves, but yet it stays the same. The style is the same, the players that come in, the goal scorers, we saw Falcao in the past being a main goal scorer. It moves on, Costa comes in, now we've got Griezmann, he'll move on and there'll be a replacement for him. The goalkeepers have changed, but they've always had a brilliant goalkeeper.
Yeah.
And the centre halves, Marinda was the pairing with Godin, brilliant pairing. He moves on, now Jimenez is in, Hernandez can do the job. I think you've got to look at that, and yet there's 23-year-olds, Saul in the middle of the pitch, Correa in the middle of the pitch, only 23. So there's youth.
Constant evolution there.
Yeah, but playing the same way, understanding the process, the style, the way we play, and
Look,
not
a
letting
really
up.
close group as well, Brian. You know, the way they celebrate, the way they play for each other. You know, and this has been, again, infectious from the manager, from day one, season, day after day, season after season.
Plenty of youth on the pitch at the moment, isn't there?
What do you say?
It's like a crash out there.
I know, but it's like Graham says, they're great moments, and they do milk it a little bit, but why
We
not?
haven't lost the 2 Champions League finals.
Yeah.
This is even though
Savour it.
this year they
Yeah.
went out in the group stage.
It's sweet.
You're in a tough group with Roma and Chelsea and Quarterback, and they went out in that. We were a bit surprised.
The point about Griezmann, and we're going to look at the goals shortly, and what they're going to miss if, as expected, he moves off to Barcelona. There's a 100 million buyout clause that Barca have apparently said, we'll pay that, we'll take him, thank you very much. But he's been involved in 45% of all of Atletico's goals this season, 29 goals and 13 assists out of their 93. Even as Brian says, the way that he's been able to regenerate that team, he's going to leave a huge gap behind him, isn't he?
Enormous. As I say, he can go and play in any team, whether Barcelona, Madrid, any of the big teams in the Premier League. He's a very, very special player. He's got that. He's a wizard. And when you watch him for the second goal, the ball's only ever, like Messi, like Ronaldo, like the very top players, when he runs with the ball's only ever 6 inches away from the end of his boot. I mean, and he's got a picture in his head that very few people have. He's brave. He's got a great football brain. He's quick. What's there not to like about him? And he will, wherever he goes, be a star.
Be a star.
But unfortunately for Madrid, I think this will be his last game.
Let's take it back to the first goal then, 20-odd minutes in, Graham, and Marseille's world kind of fell down around there.
Mandanda, well, he passed it to Anguissa because Anguissa asked for it. Anguissa's touch is poor, and then it ends up at the wrong man. You know, watch his touch. He's asking for it here. He's saying, look, give it to me. But he must see Griezmann to the right. As he plays this, Griezmann reads it, He must see him, and he's trying to take it with his right foot and turn and go up the pitch, and his touch is terrible. And what Mandanda's doing, I tell you what I'll do when you come through. I'll lie down and you pass the ball into an empty net. What sort of goalkeeping is that?
It's not from the Bob Wilson goalkeeping school.
I'll just guess.
Yeah, but you were watching that in the first half, Neil, and pointing out the fact that the two centre-halves obviously split wide, and Anguissa called for it. So it's clearly a way that Marseille like to play. Would that have been something Atletico would have pinpointed and said, pressure them in those moments?
Pressure them, try and make the mistake, and they force the mistake. Whether you blame Anguissa or the goalkeeper. Straight balls,
who do you blame on it?
Straight balls get you killed. You know, me personally, I blame the goalkeeper. Whether the midfield player's coming or not, there's a press coming from Atletico. Just miss the press out sometimes, you know, and then what they're trying to do is they'd started the game OK and they're probably comfortable, but that's the way Atletico make you play. They suck you in. And you think we're doing OK here, we're comfortable. Next thing, bang, goal. So, the goalkeeper, yeah, Anguissa miscontrols it, bad blame the goalkeeper. And then his reaction afterwards is pretty poor.
Whose reaction? The keeper?
Yeah, when Griezmann's through, he just makes it easy for him.
In terms of the save?
Absolutely.
What save?
What save, yeah, exactly.
Exactly, yeah. Neil, you're going to look at the second goal from us, and you noticed right away after the half restarted the attitude of Atletico.
Yeah, they just came out of the blocks. Look, it's 47 minutes. Marseille had never really got out of their half. Atletico start pressing high. This is 30 seconds later from Marseille's throw-in. Little 1-2. And Koki and Gabi, who were excellent. Great run off the ball from Costa. But I have to say, the composure from Griezmann is absolutely brilliant. He's inside the fullback now. Luis Gustavo gives himself up. But that's still got a bit of work to do. And his feet, as Graham talked about earlier, ball's never 6 millimetres away from his feet. Touch, 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 sucks him in again. And it's a beautifully controlled finish at pace. Game over. But they came out of the second half, smelt blood. They were a goal up. Payet's gone. Simeone's gone. We can win this early. And they do that brilliantly.
And is that the ring craft that Graham would have talked about before the match, to know that this team are going to come out and think we're going to sit back, but let's actually go for the jugular here?
They've seen it all before. Yeah. You know, they've played teams from this position before where they've got ahead, they know the opposition got to open up a little bit, and they're ready to pounce. And as Neil said, that was off a throw-in where Marseille are looking comfortable, but they're ready to pounce. They're horrible to play against from an opposition point of view. They don't give you a minute's pace in the ball. You might get a few seconds at the back, but it's only brief because, you know, Costa's going to come in and give you a kick if you delay a little bit, and then Griezmann's at it. The midfield are hounding. You know, it's going to show a bit later on with the midfield hounding. They're awful to play. Win it back off a throw-in, but then they have football. They've football instinct and precision with a few quick passes. Not many passes in the match, Tommy. There's only 209 successful passes in the match tonight. No comparison. No Manchester City job around that.
Yeah.
But just as effective at this level.
See, you just wonder, you know, how attractive would the coach be to the really big clubs? Because that, yeah, it's winning football. But it ain't football that's going to fill your stadium with purists who are looking to be entertained. And as people at Man City have been this year, Barcelona, even Real Madrid. I mean, it's basic, in-your-face, aggressive football, and some of it's a throwback. You know, it's not all about rolling it out from the goalkeeper, making passes. I mean, they go long a lot. They hit Costa a lot. The goalkeeper kicks it a lot. So I just wonder where, if the manager was to leave, where Simone would end up.
That's a very good point, Graham.
Not sure. Do you think there's a snobbishness about that style of football and the general all-round approach he brings?
He was linked with Arsenal, and you heard Arsenal supporters saying he'd be, you know, which we couldn't get him. I wouldn't have thought Arsenal would want Simone. You know,
really?
Real Madrid.
Some Arsenal people would like to see him there because they would feel that a lot of the players haven't performed, that a lot of players have been a bit too casual about their places.
Would they end up at Madrid? No. Would they end up at the other Madrid? No. Would they end up at Barca? No, that style wouldn't go down there. I'm sure there'll be a lot of teams in our country would take him, but I don't think
West Ham and Everton have moaned about the style of football with their manager, but they wouldn't half like to be winning the Europa League.
Do you think he sort of realises that he wouldn't have it as good anywhere else in terms of the control that you mentioned earlier, Brian? The fact that he wouldn't have, you know, the likes of Perez or club presidents telling him how to play football.
Now. Like Arsenal looking for a manager now. I don't see Arsenal taken a big manager. I'd say a big name manager who will want control, like you're talking about.
I think Chelsea, mate.
Yeah, but big managers want a big say, and the clubs are set up now, you know, with their acquisition board, their board for this, you know, performance board. And I think a manager, a big manager, wants to go in and have, especially the say on who comes and who goes. And you're not going to get that at a lot of clubs now. You're not going to get that at Chelsea. You're not going to get that at Arsenal after Wenger. I think it'll be more, you're the coach, you stick to what you do best.
If you were Roman Abramovich, Neil, would you say, OK, I don't care about all my different departments and recruitment people and all that, just get this guy in, give him the power, give him the responsibility? I know Abramovich probably will never think like that.
No,
but
Depends what he wants. Does he want success? Obviously, Simeone brings success, but there's a lot of good managers out there. Does he fit the profile of the club? He may go to Italy, Graham. You know, he may sort of
haven't played in
Inter
Italy,
Milan and SC Milan.
Can I remind you that last year or this year that he actually ran on the pitch and stopped an attack? I'm not sure how well that would go down at the Emirates or, you know, other places. Do you remember?
Nothing.
yeah, exactly. Yeah. At least he didn't do this. Talk about good football, though. The third goal was a thing of beauty, Brian, wasn't it?
Yeah, but that stage of the match, you know, Marseille are not in great shape. But again, it's the quality of the passing. Thomas plays it through. Griezmann, lovely time on the ball outside the foot into Costas. He holds it up. Three little passes again. Brilliant finish by Gabby there. But, you know, they're just far too cute for them. They were waiting on this moment where Marseille are caught short. Look, they've got 5v4 in the attacking position. Not too often. It's mostly counter-attacking goals with them. But this situation, they've loads of players in the box. And the right pass...
The first-time pass is the one that opens the whole picture up for them.
Yeah.
The first-time pass, it gives the guy who scores time to have a touch.
You wanted to look at some of the nuts and bolts of the...
unforeseen stuff. You know, you know, as a coach or manager, you should be able to take for granted, but you don't get it. But this is a team who's just won a European competition, and they're big on doing the basics, and that again will come from their coach.
So here's their defending and their attitude
they're
to defending.
Numbers. They don't sell themselves. They stay on their feet. You know, if you're on your feet, you're always in the game. If you go down, you're out of the game. You know, they just hunting packs, just all the things that good teams do. You know, put on head on things when they might get an elbow across their chops and it hurts. You know, they put a body on the line. This is I think, the one. Watch this coming up. Watch this coming. Boing. Better from another angle. This is the angle. Oh. And then Gordon puts his head on as the ball drops and watch them surround the ball to put to get a block in. Look, there's three of them there. These are things that, if you're a manager sitting on the touchline, you see your players do that, you know you're going to have a good day. They're all alive to the situation and the danger.
Yeah.
Basics.
It is basics. People say it's old school defending. It's not. It's just really good defending. It's really good. They're not taking chances.
Yeah.
They're not coming out with the ball and doing things that's alien to them, or they don't have to put themselves under any necessary pressure. Godin is world-class defender. Now, he may not be like a Ferdinand or a Van Dijk coming out with the ball, but I have him in my team every week. He puts his body on the line all the time.
Final point very quickly on this. We spend a lot of time on these match nights going over bad defending and, you know, why doesn't centre-half do that, etc., etc. How hard is it to get a team to do that kind of thing? Is it down to good coaching, or is it just players, good defenders taking responsibility?
Really good management, really well trained, real great desire from the players, and ultimately, Tommy, quality at the end of it as well.
Can also knowing what the players are good at and they're not good at. Take them out. Don't allow them to do things that they're not good at. Like if you think of the first goal today.
Exactly.
You know, the goalkeeper's not a good passer of the ball. He's chopped it into the midfield player. The midfield player's touch isn't that great. You should be telling players not to do that.
Yeah.
Because that whole game, not the whole game, but I think Madrid were always going to win the game,
wasn't it?
But that swung it very early on for them.
Wasn't it? Next up, we'll have Brian's in-depth analysis, the stuff you probably didn't see. Antoine Griezmann, scorer of 2 goals tonight, getting a big smacker from, I think that's Griezmann, at least I hope it is anyway. Griezmann, who grew up about half an hour from Lyon, grew up a Lyon fan as a boy. He's the one who got away for Olympique Lyon, doing the business for Atletico Madrid tonight in the Europa League final. Brian, what more can you tell us about that game?
Well, I think Graham mentioned the word, or the little phrase, hunting in packs, and I think it was never more obvious in a team's performance than what we saw in that game tonight. Sometimes it's very obvious. Neil said it's just doing the basics. But when you show it, you show the... when we roll this piece, you'll see the energy of the players getting around the pitch. The fact they get numbers, there's times when they look like they're outnumbered, but they always manage to outnumber the opposition. The opposition looking calm, then the pressure starts coming on, and they rattle them. They just disrupt the play. Godin, I think we use this there, just shows, gets across Tuvon. Tuvon looks like he's going to threaten, but look, there's always somebody ready to make a challenge. Now, this is where they tried to switch to play Marseille because they play narrow, as Neil showed early in the match. But to get across the pitch, there's a sprint to get across the pitch. Here they lose the ball. Marseille trying to do something with a few tricky passes, but they win a foul out of nothing. So they completely disrupt you by niggling, by tackling, by chase. And look here, pressure on the ball again and force an error, and they win another foul, another throw in. Here it goes, all over to one side of the pitch again. But when they tried to pass to the man who would expect them to get some goals from, Tuvon, hardly had a kick of the ball tonight. Because again, look, pressure, Indigo, Koke. Now here's Godin, looks like he's going to block off the little run Menjoy here. They're happy enough. They allow them to switch to play. Looks like they're not going to put pressure on. Now they come in. Hernandez wins a tackle. Ball picked up again. Ready to pounce. In you go. Never short the numbers. And in goes Saul Niguez. And away they go. And you can look at any minute spell, 1 minute spell. Man, look here, looks like they're a bit short. Suddenly it's 5v2, interception again, away they go with Gabby. They just constantly disrupt the opposition's flow. And here, Koke sprints out to the wide position to stop the cross. So it's self-sacrifice, it's discipline, it's organised, it's aggressive, and it's awful for the opposition to play against. And we saw the 3 goals, how they can finish when they get chances.
It takes a lot of hard work to make it look that easy. Thanks for that, Brian. Right, last season's Europa League winners are up against Europa